Ministers have just announced their proposed budget for next year. But what does it mean for you and the cost of living? Well, the new budget looks to give a big increase in funding to infrastructure, healthcare and education. But how's it all going to be paid for? Well, in short, some things may get more expensive. Tobacco will be taxed more heavily. And on a packet of cigarettes, the duty will go up by 80p. And it'll increase by £2 for 10 millilitres of vape liquid. But it's good news for bars and restaurants. The tax on a draft pint is to go down by nearly 5.5 pence. Well, Carl Walker is the chairman of the Jersey Consumer Council and is with me now to discuss the changes and what this means for you. Good morning, Carl. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Now, first, what impact can people actually expect from this new budget? How is it going to hit household costs, do we think?
Well, I think the devil's going to be in the detail. At the moment, I've been able to see the same sort of briefing papers and headlines that everybody else has. And on the face of it, it seems to be a budget that people across the board from all political spectrums are welcoming as somewhat offering some stability. However, when you start to dig down into it and you look at the real impact on islanders, particularly those who are struggling in the cost of living crisis still, I'm struggling to see where it's going to benefit those people. We know that the tax threshold, or the amount that you can earn before you are taxed, is to go up by £550. However, for a lot of people who pay their tax in arrears, that's not really going to hit you until the following year. And it's really a drop in the ocean when you think that the average earnings these days are knocking on the door of £50,000 a year. I think the most headline-grabbing change or proposal is this reduction in the duty on pints, on drinks, alcoholic drinks, which is one that needs a bit more exploring, because I don't think, I'm not sure any of your listeners have ever gone into a pub and stood at the bar and looked at all the different drinks on offer on the taps and chosen one based on price. And in fact, it's very difficult to know what the price is because they're usually printed in small print on the end of the bar somewhere. So there needs to be a bit more explanation as to exactly how that's going to work and benefit the consumer. You know, are certain taps going to be labelled that these come out of larger barrels of vats, therefore this one should be a bit cheaper than the one next to it? How will the consumer know that they're getting a pint with that reduction, or is this there to help the hospitality industry, which seems to be the driving force behind it? But again, you know, I think from a Consumer Council perspective, we're going to be, I think what we're going to try and do is ask for some sort of commitment from the breweries that also this is going to be passed on. You know that they can't control all of the pubs in the island, but those that they do, it would be great for them to publicly declare that they will pass this reduction on to consumers.
So what are the main topics that people are coming to you for support with? Because, you know, looking at the budget as it is from what you've seen, are there any particular areas that you're concerned about that maybe aren't covered as much?
Well, all day, every day, people are complaining to us about the price of food. We just see the UK inflation rate come out this morning, and it's still hovering just below 4%. So again, that will have an impact on all of the groceries eventually that we continue to buy to feed ourselves and our families. And whilst I think it's a brave move from the government to look at this, I think they're calling it tap relief, this reduce on duty on a pint. Could there potentially have been something that helps ease the cost of living more directly for consumers? You know, could the government have looked at assisting the dairy industry more to bring down the price of milk rather than just the price of beer? There are things there which you think they may have looked at that could have helped people a bit more.
Now, we've heard on a packet of cigarettes the duty will go up by 80p and it'll increase by £2 for 10 millilitres of vape liquid. But does it make sense for the government to be taxing cigarettes but then at the same time reducing the price of a pint? And are we actually going to see a cheaper drink at the pub, though, maybe, do you think?
Well, that's the thing that we're going to ask for. I mean, yes, it does seem unusual for a government to be encouraging people to go out to the pub and drink, but I can see why they're doing it. As I said, they're helping the hospitality industry. But I was recently out for a family meal, and what's really extortionate is the price of soft drinks. A bottled orange juice, a well-known brand of bottled orange juice now in some restaurants and bars is running at £4.20 when you can pick them up in the supermarket for 80 pence. And that really hurts. So the actual overall cost of going out as a family and going for a meal and enjoying the hospitality industry is really, really painful. Now, I know the government can't control that because there's no duty on it, but just the bigger picture, it's still a very, very expensive pastime. But what's more expensive for people is just doing that everyday shopping. The other thing to bear in mind as well is the fuel duty. Fuel duty, I think 1.7p on a litre. What we've seen certainly across the summer is very, very stable fuel prices for the first time in a long time. They've all been hovering around that £1, or the cheapest fuel stations have been hovering around that £1.35 to £1.38 mark. Yes, they're more expensive, but if you shop around, that's where we've been sort of stable for the whole summer. So adding effectively 2p a litre on top of that, not only impacts all of those people who drive, but it's all those people who rely on vehicles for work, delivery drivers, cleaners, people in the building industry. All that has to eventually be passed on, and it will eventually work its way down to that pint of milk that we pick up off the shelves. So it very, very quickly adds up.
And what advice would you say for islanders who might be worried about the growing costs? Because, the cost of living is at the forefront of many people's minds. And as you say, from fuel to consumer goods, prices are increasing. So what advice would you have?
Well, the obvious advice the drum that we keep banging is for islanders to continue to shop around. And I know this may sound, it's getting a bit boring, but it's until you actually do it and have a look, there are savings to be made, big savings. I had an example recently when I spoke to a lot of school children, and I took a shopping bag of 6 items with me, 6 items, everyday items, into the classroom, and the total cost, if you went to the wrong shops, would be £22. If you shopped wisely, it would be £11. It's a huge saving on one small carrier bag of shopping. That will soon add up. But more so, anybody that is struggling can come along to our consumer fair, which is happening on Friday and Saturday at the Town Hall. It's to mark the 30th anniversary of the Consumer Council, but we're going to have upwards of 20 different consumer-focused organisations there, all offering advice from money-saving tips to energy, how to save energy and bring your bills down. So there'll be plenty of opportunity there for people to ask the experts, listen to experts giving talks, and hopefully come away with some really good money-saving ideas.